When it comes to what doing well financially actually looks like, let's just say it's complicated. No matter how hard you try, you likely worry about money. And I'm guessing, as you've seen the price of eggs a while back, the situation hasn't improved much. When it comes to financial anxiety and stress, it can be a constant battle. Should you save?
Can I get actually, never mind.
Or get an iced coffee?
Can I get a iced brown sugar? Take espresso? Yes.
If I were to ask you, what do you think is the US median income? How likely are you going to get the right answer? We are notoriously bad at making these kinds of financial estimates. Some wonder if $250,000 is a decent salary. What about $15,000? And it doesn't help that every time we go on social media, we're bombarded by 20-something-year-old millionaires. So I did some research, and in 2020, the median annual earnings for men was around $60,000, and for women, $49,800. Now that sounds like a decent amount of money, but the real question is, how much of that is actually saved? 22% of Americans have no emergency savings at all, while 61% don't have enough savings to cover a $1,000 expense, like when your car breaks down, you stub your toe too hard, or when you lose your job, which, let's face it, is more likely now than ever. Thanks, recession. So the next time you see your neighbor with a brand new fancy car, don't think, what am I doing wrong? How can they afford this? Instead, just understand that they're likely part of the 61% of Americans who spend everything they make. Now here are the average savings for each age group in the US, which might seem like a lot, but keep in mind these averages are heavily skewed by the super rich in each category. Like Elon Musk, who has a net worth of $224 billion, he sits right here at the 55 to 64 age group. So if these numbers are inflated, what can we actually rely on? These are the 13 signs you're doing well financially, even if it doesn't feel like it. First, your finances are automated. The reality is Americans paid $14 billion in late credit card fees in 2019. When I first started paying my own bills, I had to set up multiple reminders, then day of, frantically try to log into my bank, forget my password, reset it, and then finally be able to click make payment. That was stressful. So if you already have your finances automated, you're doing better than most. You consume financial content. The fact that you're already watching this video shows that you're ahead of the financial curve. Thank you, by the way. Only 57% of Americans are financially literate. Even if you're new to this whole thing, you're still making the effort to learn. And naturally, as you consume and immerse yourself in this world, the more financially aware you will become in your everyday life. You'll find yourself questioning your financial decisions. Like, did I really need to buy Mr. Magic Lamp? And changing your habits that'll improve your financial future. By the way, if you want to build a wealthier and healthier life, sign up for my free weekly newsletter, Rethinkable, link below. You're comfortable talking about money. 56% of Americans believe talking about finances with others is taboo. While you might not want your daily spam caller to know your salary, it's important information for you and your network. Wouldn't you want to know what you could be making elsewhere? Chances are sharing your income with others can help decrease pay inequality. If you manage to break through your inhibitions and reach the point where you feel comfortable talking about money with friends and family, you're doing well financially. You know what you have, owe, and earn. Unfortunately, many people treat their finances like calories. We easily ignore, overestimate, or underestimate how much we make and spend because it's easier to choose willful ignorance over confrontation. You don't have to know your exact number to the penny, but when you have a decent understanding of how much you have, owe, and earn, you're on the right track. This can be as easy as keeping a simple spreadsheet of what's coming in and going out. Heck, even checking your bank account balance once a week is something. There's a lot of things we can let go in our life, but finances have a compounding negative effect if you let them go too long. You have a long-term financial plan. It's so much easier to make progress when you have a plan in place. Your plan could be written on a napkin or in an extensive Excel sheet that projects 69 years into the future. Regardless, any plan is better than no plan because at that point, you start switching from short-term to long-term thinking. You know your spending triggers. We all have our vices, but being aware and knowing how to handle them is a big win. My weakness is new tech products, headphones, computers, toothbrushes. I used to love getting new stuff, even if the only difference was a number. But something I found really helpful is following the 72-hour rule. Basically, whenever you see something non-essential that you want, just wait 72 hours before you buy it. During that time, you can go for a walk, drink some water, or stare at a wall. Oftentimes, the wait itself turns off your spending trigger. You pay your bills on time. The reality is nearly 40% of Americans struggle to pay their bills. So if you're able to pay for your electricity, rent, food, and other stuff without taking on additional debt, then you're doing pretty well. Most people need to choose which bills to pay that month, which leads to a whole bunch of other issues like late fees, lower credit scores, or Siri being judgmental.
Damn, you missed your bill again?
You have an emergency fund. Having an emergency fund is a lifesaver. For a lot of households, finances are things that happen to them. Money comes in and money goes out with nothing left at the end of the month. The problem is it only takes one bad day for everything to unravel if you don't have an emergency fund to fall back on. About a decade ago, I got into a car crash that ended up costing me about $5,000 out of pocket. And if I didn't have anything saved up, I might have needed to take out a loan. And paying back that loan with interest would have easily cost me more than $5,000. You're investing in yourself. As the saying goes, you gotta spend money to make money. Unless it's your high school friend trying to get you into his pyramid scheme. In that case, block him. Even if you're not investing in assets like stocks or bonds, investing in yourself is just as, if not more important. With a limitless amount of courses, educational videos, and books online, you can level up in nearly anything, whether you make cool graphics or do data entry. So one of the first things I ever invested in was a video editing course. I had just made a couple $100s as a content creator, and I knew I wanted to invest back into my video quality. When you put your money into the right education, tools, and resources to improve your skills, it can pay back in dividends. You know your credit score and you're working to improve it. 1 in 10 Americans have no idea what their credit score is.
So your credit score determines how much it's going to cost you to borrow money, like a loan to buy a house or a car. The lower your credit score, the more you'll have to pay.
Let's say if you have a credit score of 760 and you want to take on a $300,000 30-year fixed rate mortgage, you might get an interest rate of 5.75%. Okay, but if you have a credit score of 630 and you want to borrow the same amount of money with the same loan, your interest rate could be 7.3%. That 1.55% difference means you'd end up paying an extra $113,000 over time just because of your credit score. So if you know your credit score and you're working to improve it, you're on the right financial track. Your net worth is increasing. About a third of Americans have a net worth of $0 or less. And you'd be surprised that most people's net worth actually decreases over time. Whether they fall into lifestyle inflation, borrow too much money, or discover how delicious these chips are. Now, your net worth doesn't have to triple every year or even increase every year. But in the overall picture, if it's heading up during most periods, that's a pretty good sign. You view your financial mistakes as learning opportunities. You might not be where you want to be financially in life. Maybe you took on too much debt or you didn't ask for a raise early enough. Regardless, as long as you learn from your mistakes, you're heading in the right direction. No one is perfect and we all make mistakes. But the worst thing you can do is think your financial mistakes equate to failure. Instead, think of them as the cost for learning something new. You're tracking the big financial stuff. You don't need to track every nickel that you find on the street, but if you're tracking some of the bigger stuff, you're on the right track. One of the first things I did when paying off my big debts was put the total amount I owed, their monthly payments and interest rates all into an Excel sheet. For the years that I paid off my debt, I would open up the spreadsheet every time I made a payment and manually adjusted the remaining amount. This visualization exercise kept me motivated to keep pushing until the day it goes to zero. If Excel and spreadsheets scare you, I'm releasing my personal budgeting dashboard soon, so stay updated. The most important thing is understanding your finances so that you know what's the latest with your big financial stuff. You're trying to diversify your income. If there was ever a time to start a side hustle, it's right now. The economy isn't doing too hot and job stability is flimsy at best. When I started making videos a few years ago, I had no idea where I'd end up, but within a few months, I was making enough to quit my full-time job on Wall Street. When it comes to the economy, things are looking That's why increasing your income outside of your regular job is so important. You become less dependent on your employer and you get some extra cash. Chances are, if you can find at least 7 examples of people making a full-time living in something that you're interested in, then you can make it happen too. Despite what you think, you have a skill someone is willing to pay for, whether it's designing, writing, or making plants look pretty. And that leads me to something that you've got to start accepting. And it's that even if you're on the right financial track, sometimes you still might not be saving enough. And that might be because you don't know the Japanese secret to saving money. Click here to find out what I learned in Japan that's helping millions of people.